So probably the most requested card I have ever gotten in my comment section has finally been introduced into Master Duel, and that is of course Evil Twins Trouble Sunny, which means we get an Evil Twin video. Now before I get into the deck list, if you enjoy this kind of content, want to see more content like this, or just find this kind of content useful in any way, make sure to let me know by leaving a like on today's video and considering subscribing to the channel down below. I make a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh videos every single month, so if you enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh content, maybe consider giving this channel a go. Alright, let's go through the deck list. So today's deck list is honestly pretty self-explanatory, and for those of you who've never actually played the Evil Twins before, it's basically just based around the, well, Evil Twins. You have Lil-la, and you have Ki-Sikil, both of which have pretty similar effects of just on summon, they summon the opposing sister straight from the deck as long as you control no monsters. This leaves you with 2 monsters on board to then link into either of the bigger sisters of Evil Twin Ki-Sikil or Evil Twin Lil-la. Again, both coming with a similar effect of being able to summon the opposing sister straight from the graveyard, which includes either the link monsters or the actual small ones. Meaning you can easily summon out your Evil Twin Lil-la, bring back your live twin Ki-Sikil, giving you 2 materials on board to bring out the opposing sister, which can then bring back the link monster you just used as material. If that made no sense to you, don't worry, you'll see tons of gameplay covering off this combo. It's pretty simple once you see it in action. And basically, it leaves you with 2 link monsters on board, which gives you enough resources to make the brand new card Evil Twins Trouble Sunny, which is an absolute godsend for this deck, as this card by itself has basically just fixed any problems this deck had, most notably being the very low attack stat of your small sisters, which are only, you know, slightly smaller than a Beaver Warrior, not exactly the best end board to end on. Now we end on a 3300 attack monster that can tribute itself whenever you like, to give yourself a free card draw, and a free pop of any of your opponent's cards whenever you want it. To support the twins you have a bunch of cards. First of all you have Treat and Frost, both of which can just special summon themselves from hand if you have the opposing sister on the board. These cards are basically just extenders or replacements for your other sister if you get your effects negated by things like Effect Veiler or Ash Blossom or Imperms. It basically means you're just completely screwed because you have replacements for them, so you get enough materials on board to go into your other link monsters and then your standard combo. Then you have your spell and trap cards for the deck. First of all you have Sunny Snitch. This is a searcher for any of the monsters in the deck. Then you have Secret Password, which is a searcher for any of the spell and trap cards, which includes Live Twin Home and Evil Twin Challenge. Evil Twin Challenge is basically a monster reborn for the deck that lets you link summon during your opponent's turn, but most of the time it's just used as backup if your opponent has a kaiju or some kind of removal effect that deals with Trouble Sunny before you get its effect off, as this card lets you bring back a monster and still kind of combo off and just do stuff during your opponent's turn and you're not just completely screwed. Twin Home is basically used in the same way that you would use Frost or you would use your Treat, in that if your opponent has some kind of disruption for your Ki-Sikil or disruption for your Lil-la, you can still bring out a card from your deck, still have the materials on board to go into your link monsters and your full combo. As for the rest of the deck list, it's basically just a shit ton of tech cards. We are running one other live twin / evil twin card, but generally this card isn't actually used all that often. You're basically just using it as fodder for the second effect of your Evil Twins Trouble Sunny, which when in the graveyard can banish itself to then send this card from deck to graveyard to remove one card your opponent controls. This card can special summon itself by tributing 2 link monsters, and it basically just makes your opponent just remove everything they have until they have only 2 cards left on the field, and this card gains 2200 attack and has like 4200 attack, whatever the hell it has. But generally, you don't even use that effect as it's not all that strong. It's generally better to end on a Trouble Sunny than this card, which doesn't really do anything. Sometimes it comes up, I think it came up once in the games I played, which I haven't even got a replay showcasing it because it wasn't really that useful, but it did come up. On top of that, the rest of the deck is just a shit ton of hand traps. I'm running basically as many hand traps as possible, so I have tons of targets for Crossout Designator, but just so you know, the rest of the deck list isn't exactly mandatory, so you can run whatever other cards you like. I'm just running what I like to run, things like Daily Crow, a copy of Effect Veiler, Dual Maxx, Ash Blossom, Imperm, Droplet. Fairly standard stuff, you guys have all seen these cards before. Even the extra deck is basically just a toolbox from there on out. You have your 3 cards to use for your Zeus, you have your Linguriboh to deal with trap cards, we have a Knightmare Unicorn just because it's the best Knightmare card and happens to be a Fiend, which gets around the Fiend lock of your Evil Twin cards. We're running Unchained Abomination, which basically is a secondary boss monster, and you're running Underworld Goddess because sometimes your opponent summons a boss monster that this deck can't actually deal with, This card just lets you use your opponent's monster as material, so you get around them easily, which you'll see actually a gameplay of in the replays. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the deck list portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay showcasing the deck list in action, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so today I have 4 replays to show you guys, 3 of which are pretty decent replays, and the other one's kind of a little bit of a bonus just because I thought it was kind of funny. Alright, let's get into it. Now this replay was absolutely insane and really showcases how good this deck is. I don't think this deck is going to be top tier, I don't think it's stronger than like the deck list I showed yesterday, but it really surprised me, and duels like this are why it really surprised me. You'll see from this gameplay just how good this deck can be. Alright, so we're going second here. Thankfully we do have an effect veiler though, so we do have some kind of disruption. You generally want to draw more hand traps than this, especially considering you're running so many of them, but one is better than none. Summons out his Ecclesia. Ecclesia summons out the Sword Soul. We try to use Effect Veiler after it's used its effect. Unfortunately, he has a Call by the Grave. This guy kind of ended weirdly though. I think this guy didn't even end on, he summons this dude, then there's a search. Getting a hold of Blackout. I assume he just didn't have another worm monster in hand, so he couldn't go into the combo ended on Baron de Fleur. But he did have a Fusion Destiny, which is a bit rough. Wait, did he actually just send 2 cards from hand? Did he open both of these? Well, that's kind of rough. Either way, he's got a pretty decent board. Kind of irritating to try and deal with. But we have actually got a ways to get through it all. So we first start off with our Sunny. He activates his Destiny Hero Destroyer, which is very good for us, because he wants to destroy this card before he gets its effect off, because it's continuous. We actually have him pretty bonkers here. So then we normal summon our Lil-la. He can then negate the Lil-la. And this means he now only has 1 lot of disruption left, and we know what this card is. We saw him add it to hand. So we just need to add we just need to special summon a card onto the board, which deals with trap cards, which is our Linguriboh. This card can basically just, whenever an opponent activates a trap card, send itself to the graveyard to negate the effect. Then we can activate our Live Twin Home to discard 1 card, special summon one of the twins from the deck. He activates his trap card, we have a negate for it, so we're good now. We made sure to summon the Linguriboh first, because we know this card needs 2 cards on board to even activate. And then, because we have our Frost in hand, which is the opposite of the Lil-la on board, we can summon it, link summon off into Evil Twin Lil-la. Now, it's very important to note with this deck, because I made this mistake when I first started playing it. When you want to get a removal on your turn, you start with Lil-la. When you want to get a draw on your turn, you start with the other one. You start with Ki-Sikil. It doesn't really matter too much when you go into Troubled Sunny, but when you don't go into Troubled Sunny, or when you're not going to do a tribute because you're going first, it's better to start, the one you want. It'll make sense in a second, you'll see. So then we go into our Ki-Sikil, and this then revives the other one from the graveyard, which then gets its effect to remove a card on field, which is if you started with the other one, you would have got a draw effect and not a remove effect. Then we link summon into our Evil Twins Troubled Sunny. Tribute it to bring back the 2 monsters. This is so we give ourselves our card draw, and also put our Troubled Sunny in the graveyard. This is because I want to remove this Plasma, or this Destiny Hero Destroyer, but I don't want to destroy it because it gets its effect. So instead, I'm going to use the Troubled Sunny in the graveyard, which banishes itself and sends this dude to the graveyard, to then remove a card on the field. Which only sends it, doesn't destroy. Then it can beat over his cards, and finally end the turn by link summoning out another Troubled Sunny. Ready for my opponent's turn. Unfortunately, my opponent actually was able to do a kind of it's a bit of a comeback going on at the start. Opens Imperm, which is very annoying, so we tribute our Sunny to special summon out. Only 1 card. This card can summon 2, but in this situation, you only want to summon the Ki-Sikil, because then you can use Ki-Sikil's effect to still bring out a monster to destroy a card. If you summon both of them, you just basically lose the whole point of the effect of trying to destroy stuff. So only summoning 1. So my opponent summons an Ecclesia, gets to draw 2 cards. Whenever my opponent adds a card to hand or draws a card, I forget which one it is. Yeah, when a card's added from main deck to hand, you can then banish it to draw a card if it's in the graveyard. Use the Ecclesia, goes into Tyre. We then activate Evil Twin to summon itself to pop his monster on board. I made sure that I wanted to let him use his effect first and not pop the Tyre because I wanted to make sure he had a monster on board. Because if he has a monster on board and it's not a token monster, he can't use any of the tenures in his deck, which is really irritating if he has them in hand, because then he can just basically full combo again. Unfortunately, he summons a tuner monster, so he's still able to go into Yang Zing, which removes both of my cards eventually, because he sends one and then he beats over the other one. But thankfully, we do have Sunny Snitch in hand, so we still have a search effect. Searching for Ki-Sikil. Ki-Sikil, special summoning out the other live twin. Going into Lil-la. Lil-la special summons out this one. Once again, special summoning out the other one. Popping his card before going into Trouble Sunny. And swing into his face. Setting our Imperm and passing the turn. He then passed the turn back, so he drew nothing. And this is where things got a little bit sketch, because I could have tributed this during my opponent's turn to give myself a draw, but I was worried that there's very few cards that give this man a comeback, one of which would have been Called by the Grave, so I was kind of scared he had Called by the Grave, so I didn't activate this. I waited for my turn, because I guaranteed to have lethal on board anyway. But unfortunately, this man actually had, when I tried to use some Trouble Sunny's effect to tribute itself, he actually had a Gamma. But thankfully, we did draw Ash Blossom, so we can negate it once. Doesn't root from hand, by the way, so we can still use the effect again. But it negates it for this one effect. Meaning we get our Trouble Sunny's effect off to bring back our twins. Not using their effects, so we don't let them get negated. And we just beat our opponent to death. Alright. Gameplay number 2. Now, as you'll notice, this is actually we actually went up in rank, so this deck is good enough to climb. Alright. I kind of forget which replay this one was. Is this the hand trap replay? Either way, first activating our Sunny to search for Frost. That's because I was trying to bait out Ash Blossoms, our opponent didn't have any by looks of things. Activates an effect Veiler instead, hitting our Lil-la. But because we search for Frost, we have Lil-la on board, we can just summon the Frost from hand. And still go into our combo of summon out our Ki-Sikil. Special summon out Lil-la, and then go into the other Lil-la. And this is what I meant, by the way, of summoning them in the correct order, because now you get a draw effect. Unfortunately, our opponent did have an Ash Blossom, he just decided to use the effect Veiler first. Wouldn't matter because we still have the quick play to special summon from deck anyway, even if we needed it. Think summoning out our Trouble Sunny and passing the turn, after setting our Monster Reborn. I actually misplayed pretty hard in this draw, I remember which one this was now. So this was against the Flunderees, the new deck, which is really hard to deal with at the moment. It's kind of hard to get your head around a lot of this stuff, because it's basically just a lot of normal summoning. It's a very weird playstyle. It was super odd to play against. Maxx is completely dead in this matchup. And I have no idea which card I'm meant to pop here. I'm pretty sure I'm meant to activate the effect though before he summons his boss monster, because otherwise he summons a monster that doesn't let my attack position cards have their effects. So I'm going to use Frost Engrave, and then I immediately activate this trap card before realizing how dumb this was. I tried to use this trap card because I didn't want to use my Trouble Sunny's effect yet, but then I realized he just added a card to hand that doesn't let me special summon anymore, which he's actually about to normal summon immediately once this effect resolves. So I realized this trap card isn't actually going to do anything, so I just completely wasted it, and instead I just activate Trouble Sunny. So I completely wasted the effect. So ignore this trap card, pretend I didn't use it. It was a big dum-dum. Summoning out my 2 cards, and then his monster resolves, which summons out a card that stops the special summoning. Not sure why he didn't summon, honestly, not sure why he didn't summon this card. If he summoned this card, I probably would have just been completely doomed, as this just stops all my cards from activating their effects in the... Pretty sure that's what it does. When I distribute summon cards in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters. Yeah, so it would just stopped all these effects anyway, and I can't even summon them in defense because they're link monsters, so... For some reason he summoned Statue though. Very nice of him, meaning I can just pop that and give myself a card draw. He tribute summons out his boss monster, which would be pretty scary, but we have multiple ways of dealing with this, one of which would have been the Trouble Sunny in Graveyard. But unfortunately, he also has another normal summon, which he can just use, which apparently banishes a card in the graveyard. So, bye-bye Trouble Sunny. He then beats over my monster, leaving me in a pretty rough state, because I can't use any of my monster effects. Alright. So first of all, I normal summon my Ki-Sikil, then I'm going to use my secret password to search for my other searcher, so I can search for a monster that's special summonable. Special summon it. This leaves me with enough monsters on board, then have a link 2 monsters, and my opponent's monster to link summon straight into Underworld Goddess. So this is one of the main reasons you're running, basically the only reason you're running this card, is if your opponent has a card you just cannot out. This card basically solves that problem. You use your opponent's monster and you're good to go. I then stupidly go to the battle phase here, forgetting that I could have just used the live twin home to then go into my Trouble Sunny again, but you'll see that in a second anyway. I just forgot to do it during the battle phase. So my opponent kept a monster on board that we actually could have removed. Yeah, link summon out the first twin, summon back the other twin, link summon, blah 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 blah. You've seen all this before. Get to pop the annoying card that would have been could have been annoying, and we're good to go. And from here, I'm pretty sure my opponent doesn't draw anything. Just yeah, concedes. After summoning a Almirage for some reason and burning for a bit. Alright. Next replay. So the last 2 replays aren't exactly that special. They were just pretty amusing replays, so I decided to keep them. Yeah, this replay is actually quite funny. My opponent just had an interesting starting hand. Alright. So first of all, we activate our Sunny. He has an Ash Blossom. Now we could have negated it with a Crossout here, but I'm worried my opponent will have something like a Maxx or an Effect Veiler or some other hand trap that I'm going to want to use this for later, because I can still play the game through this Ash Blossom. I don't care about it. So I'm like, alright, we'll let that go off. So then I summon my twin home first, discarding a card, special summoning the Ki-Sikil from the deck. He has the effect veiler that we're talking about. And I'm like, alright, this is why we saved the Crossout, thank God. Gonna cross out that card. But unfortunately, my opponent had an effect veiler as well. Triple hand trap. But you will notice, I actually haven't used my normal summon yet. So I can literally just normal summon the Ash Blossom and use that as material, because these cards are actually pretty generic in their summon. They just require 2 monsters, including a Ki-Sikil monster, whilst the other one requires a Lil-la monster. So they're very, very easy to summon, and because the card I discarded happened to be the opposite sister, I can just bring that card back, and we have full combo. So through 3 hand traps, we're still able to full combo. And yeah, from here, we just do our normal stuff, get a card draw, summon out Trouble Sunny, and pass the turn. I think my opponent was just like, completely noped out at this point. Don't really blame him. Triple hand trap still got played through, get rolled. Alright, final gameplay. This was also a very interesting gameplay. I don't really know what my opponent was doing in this one. This guy was playing adventurer of some kind. I'm not really sure what kind of adventurer, because I only saw adventurer cards, but maybe he was playing pure. Either way, I was a bit sus. So he activates his Fateful Adventure. We use Maxx. Fortunately, he had Ash Blossom, so it happens. Searching for the dude. We're just going to search for the spell card. Spell card summons the token. At this point, uses this card's effect to search for a card, and has Griffin in hand already anyway. Leaving a pretty interesting board of just one negate and one back row. So we're going to summon our Lil-la. He has an Ash Blossom for that, which is a bit rough, but we have Crossout. Unfortunately, our opponent has Imperial Order in his deck, which I was like, huh. Alright, well, both his spell cards are now completely useless. Interesting choice, but apparently there's Imperial Order in this man's deck. I don't know why you would use Imperial Order in this deck. Like, if he went first, didn't draw his Adventurer stuff, then passed his turn back, he just wouldn't be able to use his Adventurer engine anymore. This card just stops. I don't understand. Either way. Gates the Crossout. But we can still special summon from hand because we have the opposing twin. Go into our Gachi. Gachi can then swing in. Go into our Downerd Magician. Downerd Magician, go into Zeus. And now we have a 4 material Zeus on the board. Pass the turn, go your hardest opponent. Because he still has an Omni-Negate, by the way, so we didn't want to do any of our Live Twin stuff because he would have just negated it and we would have been in a very, very bad spot. So I'm just like, have a Zeus. He goes to end phase, I activate my Zeus effect once, he goes to negate, and I can just chain Zeus again and say goodbye to my opponent's entire board. And that's why you're running Zeus in this deck. Alright, that's going to do it for today's gameplays. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.